Welcome to Audio Mentors. In this chapter, we begin a new learning journey with the book Sell to the Brain, Not to People by Jürgen Klarik. This book explores how neuroscience can revolutionize the way we approach sales, showing us how to speak directly to the brain of the customer to influence their buying decisions more effectively. The author reveals the secrets behind how the human brain makes decisions and how we can use this knowledge to improve our skills as salespeople. Throughout this book, you will learn science-based strategies that will help you connect emotionally with customers, overcome their objections, and close sales more effectively. If you've ever wondered why certain sales techniques seem to work like magic, this book has the answers. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Introduction. The importance of selling to the brain, not to people. In this first chapter of Sell to the Brain, Not to People, Jürgen Klarik introduces us to a revolutionary concept in the field of sales: neuro-sales. The author argues that, over the years, salespeople have focused on trying to sell to people without truly understanding how the human brain works when making buying decisions. To be a successful salesperson in the 21st century, it's crucial to understand how the human mind makes decisions and how we can effectively influence those processes. The difference between selling to the brain and selling to people. The title of the book is a summary of the main idea the author wants to convey: sell to the brain, not to people. Traditional sales techniques have focused on trying to convince the customer through logical arguments, attractive prices, or product features. However, the brain does not make purchasing decisions solely based on logic. It does so primarily through emotions, impulses, and subconscious processes. Therefore, the real challenge for the salesperson is to connect with the consumer's brain, activate their emotions, and guide them toward making a purchase in a natural, effortless way. The human brain doesn't respond only to the data provided to it, it responds to emotional stimuli that drive decision-making. People don't necessarily buy what they need, they buy what they want. The author highlights that 95% of purchasing decisions are driven by the subconscious. Therefore, sales should focus on activating the emotional areas of the brain that influence these decisions. The power of neuroscience in sales. Klarik points out that, today, it's essential to sell to the brain in a scientific way. It's not just about selling based on product features or being able to deliver a great sales pitch, but understanding how a potential customer's brain is activated by certain stimuli. This is what truly defines the success of a sale. Neurosciences, which study the brain's functioning and its responses to stimuli, offer powerful tools that salespeople can apply to better understand their customers and increase sales. The author emphasizes that this scientific approach is not just for expert salespeople. Any salesperson, regardless of their industry, can apply these principles to connect better with their clients and be more effective. The brain is not rational, it's emotional. Throughout the chapter, Graham explains that the buying process is not a rational decision. A buyer's mind does not make decisions based solely on cold facts or logical information. In reality, consumers are guided by emotions, impulses, and even memories that are deeply stored in their subconscious. These emotional factors are what drive people to buy, even when they don't need something or when presented with more rational and logical options. A clear example Graham gives is how people impulsively buy certain products when they are emotionally connected to them, such as when we see an attractive offer or when the product reminds us of something from our childhood. All of this is deeply tied to how the reptilian brain works, the most primitive part of the brain, which is responsible for making quick decisions based on emotions and survival. Why the brain is more important than people. Klarik explains that selling to people relies on trying to convince customers using rational arguments while overlooking the emotional aspect. In contrast, selling to the brain involves connecting with the customer's subconscious, showing emotional value and benefits that truly resonate with their emotional needs. This approach goes far beyond simply offering a good deal. It aims to create an experience for the customer that makes them feel they are making an emotionally correct decision. One key point the author highlights is that salespeople must identify customers' subconscious desires, as this is where people truly make decisions. It's not just about presenting a product or offering an attractive discount, it's about selling an experience that aligns with what the customer really desires emotionally. Sales is not just talking, it's understanding. This chapter also focuses on the idea that the salesperson should not just talk but listen and understand the customer's subconscious desires. A successful salesperson is not the one who talks the most, but the one who understands their customer better, their fears, unspoken desires, and emotions. The ability to listen and understand what truly drives the customer is what differentiates an average salesperson from an excellent one. Additionally, Clarick emphasizes the importance of building authentic relationships with customers. Emotional connection is the key to generating trust and, therefore, closing sales successfully. When a customer feels understood on an emotional level, they are much more willing to make the purchase decision, even if the price isn't the lowest or the product doesn't have all the features that other products may offer. Conclusion. In summary, this first chapter establishes that the secret to sales success lies not in simply speaking to people rationally, but in speaking to the minds of consumers in a way that activates their emotions and subconscious. To be a successful salesperson, it is essential to understand how the brain works and how emotional and subconscious processes impact purchasing decisions. Graham concludes by saying that intelligent selling is that which emotionally connects with the customer, not only showing them a product but making them feel that this product will bring them deep emotional satisfaction. Chapter 2. The Science Behind Neuro-Sales. Why does it work? In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick delves deeper into the science behind neurosales, explaining how and why the principles of neuroscience applied to sales can have such a powerful and effective impact. This scientific approach is not just based on the experience of salespeople but on a detailed understanding of how the human brain works when faced with purchasing decisions. The brain and emotions. Why does the mind buy? Clarick begins by explaining that, when making purchasing decisions, the human brain does not act entirely rationally. Instead of coldly evaluating the product's features, the brain is influenced by emotions, feelings, and perceptions that directly affect the purchasing decision. The most relevant part of the brain for these kinds of decisions is the reptilian brain, or primitive brain, which is responsible for survival, emotions, and quick responses to external stimuli. Through neuroscience studies, it has been shown that 80% of our decisions are made subconsciously. This automatic process is influenced by emotional factors that are not necessarily rational but are extremely powerful. Emotions play a key role in decision-making, and the brain, programmed to avoid pain and seek pleasure, responds to emotional stimuli much more immediately and strongly than to any rational argument. The brain doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is perceived. One of the fundamental laws explained by the author is that the brain doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is perceived as real. That is, the emotions generated by a sensory experience or by a visualized thought have a similar impact on the brain. This means that when a customer visualizes the emotional benefits of a product, the brain processes them as real even before an actual purchase has been made. For example, if a salesperson describes how a product can improve a person's life or solve a deep emotional problem, the customer begins to feel those improvements emotionally. The brain then responds positively and activates the motivation to buy, as it perceives the value immediately even without tangible proof. Emotional connection as a selling point. The chapter also emphasizes that, for a sale to be effective, there must be a genuine emotional connection between the salesperson and the customer. Emotions are the driving force behind purchasing decisions, and the salesperson must learn how to create that emotional bond to activate the customer's brain response. Through storytelling or emotional descriptions of the product's benefits, the salesperson can connect with the customer on a deeper, more personal level. Neuroscience has shown that the brain responds to stories much more effectively than to cold data or product features. Narratives allow the brain to visualize, feel, and connect with the product experience in ways that simple sales arguments cannot achieve. The influence of colors and visual stimuli. Clarick also mentions how colors and visual stimuli can have a significant impact on purchasing decisions. The brain reacts automatically to certain colors, which can evoke specific emotions. For example, the color red can create urgency, blue conveys trust, and green is associated with tranquility. The proper use of these visual stimuli in product presentation, advertising, or even in physical stores can trigger immediate emotional responses that will influence the customer's buying decision. The human brain processes visual stimuli much faster than words, meaning that a good visual presentation of a product can be a determining factor in the purchase decision. The importance of context. How does the customer feel when making the purchase? Cleric highlights that the customer's feeling at the moment of purchase also plays a crucial role in the final decision. The human brain is highly influenced by the emotional context in which it finds itself. If the customer feels comfortable, understood, and valued, they are much more likely to make the purchase. The atmosphere in the store or the tone of the salesperson's voice are factors that affect how the brain processes the purchase. The emotions generated in a pleasant environment or during a warm interaction can be the deciding factor in a purchase process. Salespeople who know how to create a positive emotional environment for their customers are much closer to closing a successful sale. The role of oxygen and dopamine in buying. The brain is also highly sensitive to dopamine, a neurotransmitter that is released when the brain experiences pleasure or reward. Dopamine is associated with the feeling of satisfaction and motivation. When a customer feels excited about what they are buying, their brain produces dopamine, which reinforces the buying behavior. Salespeople can leverage this biological process by offering customers a positive experience at the time of purchase. This can be something as simple as making the customer feel special or creating an atmosphere where the purchase is perceived as a reward. Conclusion. This chapter highlights how neuroscience and the study of the human brain provide powerful tools to transform the sales process. Neurosales is not just about selling a product, but about creating a deep emotional connection with the customer, activating their brain at the most subconscious levels. By understanding brain processes, salespeople can adapt their strategies to effectively influence purchasing decisions and create a positive and memorable buying experience. Chapter 3. Understanding the Consumer Mind, the Decision-Making Process. In this chapter, Jürgen Cleric dives deeper into one of the most fundamental aspects of neurosales, understanding how the decision-making process works in the consumer's brain. The author explains that, to sell effectively, the salesperson must understand what happens in the customer's mind at each step of their buying process. By understanding these processes, salespeople can influence the customer's decisions in a much smarter and subtler way. The brain, an emotional stimuli processor. Cleric begins by explaining that the human brain is not designed to make purely logical decisions. Despite the widespread belief that buying decisions are based on cold data and logical reasoning, the reality is that buying decisions are mostly the result of emotions and perceptions. The reptilian brain, which is the most primitive part of the brain, makes quick decisions based on survival and emotions. It is this part of the brain that influences most buying decisions. This emotional response precedes any rational process, and often, the customer is not aware of why they are making a particular decision. This is precisely what explains why emotions drive decision-making. The 3 stages of the buying process. Cleric describes the buying process as a 3-stage journey that the customer experiences from the moment they come into contact with a product or service. Each of these stages is influenced by different emotional and cognitive factors. Perception. The first stage of the buying process is perception. This stage refers to the way the brain interprets external stimuli, whether visual, auditory, or tactile. In this phase, the customer is receiving information and forming an initial opinion about the product. However, this first impression is not based on cold facts, but on what the brain interprets as emotionally relevant. For example, the visual appearance of a product, its color, or even the store's design can trigger an immediate emotional response in the customer. Cleric emphasizes that a successful salesperson must be aware of how their first stimuli may affect the customer's emotional perception, creating a positive emotional bond from the very beginning. Emotional analysis. The second stage is emotional analysis. Here, the customer is not logically evaluating the product's features. Instead, they are weighing how the product or service makes them feel. This stage is based on what the customer believes they will gain emotionally from the purchase. In this phase, the customer begins to form emotional associations with the product. Will it make them feel more secure, happier, more successful? Neurosales focuses on understanding these emotional needs of the customer so that the salesperson can respond with the appropriate emotional solution. Salespeople must learn to activate these desires in a way that the customer sees the product as an opportunity to fulfill their emotional needs. Decision-making. Finally, the decision-making stage arrives, which occurs when the customer feels emotionally connected to the product. By this point, the brain has already made a largely subconscious decision, and the logical justification is just an attempt to rationalize the purchase. The customer emotionally justifies what has already been decided subconsciously. This phase is crucial, and this is where the salesperson must ensure that the customer not only feels emotionally drawn to the product but also finds logical reasons to make the purchase decision. The closing of the sale must be based on making the customer feel good about their emotional decision. The role of cognitive biases. A key concept that Clarick introduces in this chapter is cognitive biases, which are mental shortcuts the brain uses to make decisions quickly, but sometimes lead to faulty conclusions. Salespeople must understand how these biases influence decision-making and how to ethically leverage them to influence the customer. Examples of cognitive biases include anchoring bias, where the customer is influenced by the first price or number they see, e.g., a higher original price that is then presented as a discount. Scarcity bias, when a product is perceived as more valuable because there are few available. Confirmation bias, where the customer seeks confirmation that their decision is correct, which can lead them to hold onto information that reinforces their beliefs. Neuro-sales in action. Clarick emphasizes that understanding these brain and emotional processes allows salespeople to apply more effective neurosales strategies. To connect with the customer's brain, the salesperson must be able to capture the customer's emotional attention immediately. Spark emotional desire instead of just promoting the product's features. Guide the decision using both emotional arguments and logical reasoning that reinforce the emotional connection. A salesperson who understands these processes and focuses on the customer's emotions is much more prepared to connect on a deep level and increase the chances of closing the sale. Conclusion. This chapter underscores that buying decisions are not purely logical decisions, but deeply emotional ones. Understanding how the human brain works and how purchasing decisions are made based on emotional and subconscious processes is essential for any salesperson. By applying these principles, salespeople not only increase their chances of success but can also create a more authentic and satisfying buying experience for the customer. Chapter 4. Neurosciences applied to sales. What triggers the brain when buying? In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick explores how neuroscience can be directly applied to the sales process. Through the study of the human brain and its functioning, the author reveals how certain areas of the brain are activated during the buying process and how salespeople can leverage this knowledge to increase their sales. According to Clarick, purchasing decisions are not exclusively rational. The brain is influenced by emotional factors that play a crucial role in the final decision. The brain and decision-making. The human brain is made up of several parts, but the primitive brain or reptilian brain plays a crucial role in the decision-making process. This part of the brain manages emotions and quick impulses, and it is here that immediate decisions, such as purchasing decisions, are made. While the more advanced brain, neocortex, is involved in logical reasoning, it is the primitive brain that decides quickly. Clarick highlights that, due to this dynamic, salespeople must learn to connect with the customer's primitive brain. This means that, beyond offering a detailed product description or talking about technical features, salespeople must activate positive emotions that resonate at that primitive level. The brain areas activated when buying. Clarick explains that when a consumer is making a purchasing decision, various areas of the brain are activated, and each of these areas is linked to different emotions and cognitive processes. Below, he describes some of the key areas activated during a purchase. The amygdala. The amygdala is the emotional center of the brain and plays a crucial role in emotional decision-making. This area responds to stimuli related to fear, safety, and excitement. The amygdala is activated when the customer feels that something is new, exciting, or urgent. Salespeople can activate the amygdala by creating a sense of urgency or associating the product with a positive emotional experience. The prefrontal cortex. This area of the brain is related to judgment and rational decision-making. While emotions play a stronger role in the purchase decision, The prefrontal cortex is still important because it is involved in analyzing the information received. The salesperson must ensure that the customer emotionally justifies their purchase with logical reasons that validate the decision. The dopamine system. Dopamine is a key neurotransmitter in the brain that is related to pleasure and motivation. It is activated when the brain perceives a reward. When purchasing, if a customer feels they are receiving something valuable, their brain releases dopamine, creating a sense of satisfaction and motivation to complete the purchase. Salespeople can influence dopamine release by presenting the product as a reward or highlighting the exclusivity or limited nature of the offer. The role of emotions in buying. Clark emphasizes that emotions are essential in the purchasing decision-making process. When a customer feels that a product triggers a deep emotional desire, the brain becomes activated, generating an impulse to buy. This impulse may be related to desires such as status, belonging, security, or survival. The emotional connection a salesperson can establish with the customer through a product can be the difference between closing a sale and losing it. Salespeople must learn to identify the key emotions the customer seeks to satisfy and present their product as the perfect solution for those emotions. This can be particularly powerful in products related to lifestyle, personal image, or anything tied to deep emotional needs. The scarcity principle and the brain. One of the fundamental principles that Clark mentions in relation to neuroscience is the principle of scarcity. When something is perceived as limited or exclusive, the brain responds with a greater sense of urgency. This principle activates the brain in a way that generates an emotional drive, prompting the person to act quickly to seize the opportunity. This triggers the dopamine area related to motivation. The feeling of scarcity can be strategically used by salespeople to create urgency that drives the purchase. For example, phrases like "only 3 units left" or "offer valid until tonight" trigger an immediate emotional response in the customer, creating internal pressure to act before it's too late. The importance of immediate reward. The brain is also highly focused on immediate reward. Purchase decisions accelerate when the consumer perceives that they will receive immediate gratification. Clark underscores that salespeople can activate this need for reward through special offers, immediate discounts, or additional gifts. These types of incentives can motivate the customer to make a buying decision without overthinking it. How to influence the customer's brain to increase sales. In this chapter, Clark provides various strategies to apply this knowledge of how the brain works during sales. These strategies include highlighting the emotional. Instead of focusing only on the technical features of a product, salespeople should emphasize the emotions the customer will experience when using it. Showing how the product can improve the customer's life on an emotional level is key. Creating sensations of reward. The key to closing a sale is making the customer feel rewarded by the purchase. This can be achieved with limited offers, exclusive discounts, or additional benefits. Using cognitive biases. Salespeople must understand the cognitive biases that guide purchase decisions, such as scarcity bias and social proof bias. By leveraging these biases ethically, they can influence the customer's buying decision. Conclusion. This chapter emphasizes that neurosales is based on understanding how the consumer's brain responds to certain emotional and cognitive stimuli. By understanding how to activate different areas of the brain, salespeople can significantly increase their chances of success in every transaction. By using principles from neuroscience, such as activating dopamine, scarcity, and immediate reward, salespeople can effectively influence customer behavior, creating an emotionally satisfying experience for them. Chapter 5. The most effective neurotips for salespeople. In this chapter, Jürgen Clark offers a series of practical neurotips designed to improve salespeople's skills. These tips are based on neuroscience principles and how the human brain responds to various stimuli during the purchasing process. By applying these neurotips, salespeople can increase their effectiveness, emotionally connect with customers, and most importantly, close sales more intelligently and successfully. Capture attention quickly. One of the biggest challenges in sales is capturing the customer's attention in the first few seconds of interaction. The human brain is programmed to seek stimuli and quickly shifts toward other factors that may seem more interesting. For this reason, capturing the customer's attention from the start is crucial. Cleric highlights that during the first contact, the salesperson must be dynamic and direct. A warm greeting, combined with open and trustworthy body language, is essential for establishing a quick connection. The first words should be carefully chosen to generate curiosity or appeal to an emotional need. For example, using phrases like, "I have something that might interest you," or "Let me show you how we can solve this problem," can be much more effective than a standard greeting. Additionally, the tone of voice should be enthusiastic and confident, which activates areas of the brain associated with positive emotions and creates an immediate impression of trust. The open door technique. An important technique in sales is what is called the open door. This technique involves opening the conversation with questions that don't pressure the customer but make them feel welcome and in control. The goal is to avoid making the customer feel pressured from the outset. Cleric suggests questions such as, "Would you like to know how we can improve your experience with X?" Or, "Can I tell you something that could make your life easier?" These questions create a sense of curiosity and voluntariness in the customer, making them feel more in control of the interaction. This type of opening reduces customer resistance and makes them more receptive. From a neuroscience perspective, this technique activates the customer's exploratory brain, which is looking for new experiences and solutions to improve their situation, creating a sense of discovery that motivates the sale. Use emotion before logic. Cleric explains that while many times salespeople think reasoning with customers is the best strategy, emotion plays a much more important role in the purchasing process. The human brain makes emotional decisions first, and only then justifies them rationally. Emotions are what drive customers to act, while logic is used only to confirm what they have already emotionally decided. For example, instead of only mentioning the technical features of a product, the salesperson should focus on how that product can improve the customer's life emotionally. Instead of simply saying, "This phone has a 12-megapixel camera," the salesperson can say, "Imagine capturing special moments with the best image quality, making every memory even more vivid." This emotional connection activates a sense of desire in the brain that is much more powerful than a simple technical description. The scarcity technique. The principle of scarcity is one of the most powerful principles in sales, as it relates to the psychology of the fear of missing out. The human brain responds strongly to the feeling that something is limited or difficult to obtain. When a product is perceived as scarce, the brain experiences an emotional urgency to take action. The salesperson can use phrases like "only 2 units left" or "offer valid until tonight" to activate the dopamine system in the customer's brain. Dopamine, associated with motivation and reward, is released when the customer feels that they must act quickly to avoid missing the opportunity. This motivates the purchase immediately. However, Cleric points out that these types of messages must be authentic and not used manipulatively. The salesperson must be sincere about the product or discounts limitation to avoid losing the customer's trust. Tangible benefits versus intangible benefits. Cleric highlights the difference between tangible and intangible benefits and how both should be used in the sales process. Tangible benefits are measurable and concrete, such as the product's performance or durability, while intangible benefits are related to the emotions or feelings the product generates in the customer. The salesperson should learn to emphasize the intangible benefits, as the customer does not simply buy a function but the experience the product provides. For example, a customer doesn't buy a car just for its efficient engine but also for the feeling of freedom and the status it gives them while driving. The salesperson's goal should be for the customer to visualize how their life will improve by owning the product and emotionally connect with those intangible benefits. This can be achieved through satisfied customer stories or a visualization approach that allows the customer to imagine using the product in their daily life. The power of social proof. Social proof is another important neurotip. The human brain is naturally inclined to follow the behavior of others, especially when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. Customers are more likely to buy something if they perceive that others have already purchased it and are satisfied with their choice. Cleric suggests that salespeople use testimonials from satisfied customers, positive reviews, and success stories to show that others have already experienced the benefits of the product. Seeing that others confirm the quality of what they are buying increases confidence and reduces doubt. The salesperson can include video testimonials, case studies, or references from previous clients to validate the customer's decision and increase the likelihood of purchase. Reinforce the decision with visualization. Finally, the last neuro tip in this chapter is the use of visualization. When customers can visualize themselves enjoying the product, the likelihood of them making the purchase decision increases significantly. Cleric suggests that the salesperson should have the customer imagine using the product and experiencing the emotional benefits the product will provide. For example, if the customer is purchasing a gym membership, the salesperson could say, "Imagine waking up every morning with energy, knowing your health is improving each day." This visualization activates areas of the brain related to reward and motivation. Conclusion. This chapter provides a series of practical strategies for salespeople based on scientific principles that directly affect the human brain. From capturing attention to creating urgency and using social proof, the neurotips presented in this chapter are designed to improve sales effectiveness by activating the emotional and subconscious desires of customers. Each of these tips helps salespeople connect emotionally with their customers, close sales effectively, and create more genuine and satisfying relationships. Chapter 6. The Power of Symbolic Value in Sales. In this chapter, Jürgen Cleric explores a fundamental concept within neurosales, the symbolic value of products and how this intangible value powerfully influences purchasing decisions. Cleric explains that consumers do not just buy a product for its functional characteristics, but often seek something much deeper: emotional meaning and symbolic value. What is symbolic value? The symbolic value of a product refers to the emotional and cultural meanings a product holds for the consumer. It's not just about what the product does, but about what the customer believes it represents. A luxury watch, for example, does not only tell the time, it symbolizes status, success, and prestige. This emotional value is deeply rooted in neuroscience, as the brain is attracted to products that offer more than just practical utility. Cleric highlights that symbolic value is connected to deeper psychological needs, such as the desire to belong, stand out, or affirm one's identity. Salespeople must learn to identify and communicate this emotional value that goes beyond the product's tangible features. The mind seeks meaning, not just function. The author emphasizes that the human brain is not only interested in the functionality of a product but in what that product represents in terms of identity and personal values. The brain is programmed to seek emotional meanings, and each time we buy something, we are essentially buying the idea that the product offers. For example, a luxury car is not bought solely for its performance or safety, but for what it represents in terms of personal success, freedom, and achievement. This type of symbolic value is emotionally activated in the brain and is associated with the buyer's self-image. The salesperson must go beyond selling a product. They must sell an identity, an emotional experience that resonates with the customer's subconscious needs. This way, the product changes from being just a functional tool to becoming an emotionally charged symbol that fulfills the customer's deeper needs. The connection between symbolic value and exclusivity. Cleric also points out that symbolic value is closely tied to exclusivity. People tend to place a higher value on what they perceive as exclusive. The human brain associates exclusivity with superiority, and the feeling of having something unique creates a strong buying impulse. Products that are presented as scarce or difficult to obtain are perceived as more emotionally valuable, activating the brain's dopamine system. For example, simply offering a product as part of a limited-time offer or having only a limited quantity available in the market creates a sense of urgency in the consumer. This type of exclusivity adds a symbolic value that goes beyond the basic function of the product, transforming it into a desirable object. Cleric explains that salespeople can leverage this perception of exclusivity by presenting products as unique, rare, or desirable, which increases the symbolic value they hold in the customer's mind. The emotional brain and purchasing decisions. The chapter also delves into how the emotional brain responds to symbolic value. When a customer purchases something that satisfies a deep emotional need, such as the desire to belong or stand out, the brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. This release of dopamine makes the purchase not only feel satisfying but also emotionally rewarding. In other words, the customer is buying the emotion behind the product, not just the product itself. When a salesperson effectively communicates the symbolic value of a product, they are appealing to the part of the brain that makes decisions based on emotions, making the purchase much more likely. How to apply symbolic value in sales. Clarick offers several strategies for salespeople to apply symbolic value in their sales. Know your customer's emotions. Salespeople must understand their customer's emotional needs. What is the customer looking for beyond the function of the product? Are they seeking status, security, personal affirmation? Knowing this allows the salesperson to present the product in a way that emotionally resonates with the customer. Create an emotional narrative. When presenting a product, the salesperson should focus on selling a story rather than just features. This story should connect the product with the customer's emotional desires. For example, if it's a travel experience, instead of just talking about the price or comfort, the salesperson should speak about the sense of adventure or the happy memories the customer can create. Use the principle of exclusivity. Exclusivity significantly increases the symbolic value of a product. Presenting the product as something unique, limited, or exclusive generates a sense of urgency and desire in the customer, making the purchase easier. Focus on social status. Products that are perceived as high status generate a strong attraction due to the symbolic value they offer. Many consumers buy products not just to fulfill a need but to project a social image. Salespeople should highlight this aspect when presenting products tied to an aspirational lifestyle. Reinforce the customer's identity. Products that allow customers to reinforce their personal identity or align with their values hold great symbolic value. For example, a customer who buys an eco-friendly product does so not only for its features but also because they identify with the environmental cause it represents. Symbolic value and sales success. Finally, Clarick emphasizes that symbolic value is essential for creating a deep emotional connection with the customer. Through this emotional connection, the customer not only decides to purchase a product but also becomes an advocate for the brand. Symbolic value makes the customer feel emotionally connected to the product, which increases the likelihood of repeat sales and customer loyalty. Salespeople who successfully convey the symbolic value of a product don't just sell an item, they sell an emotional experience that aligns with the customer's subconscious desires, significantly improving the chances of success in every transaction. Conclusion. This chapter underscores the importance of not only selling the features of a product but its symbolic value. Successful sales are based on the salesperson's ability to emotionally connect with the customer, presenting the product as something that meets their deepest desires and needs. Salespeople must learn to identify and communicate this emotional value to create satisfying and memorable shopping experiences for customers. Chapter 7. Structure of a neuro-sales pitch. In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick provides a detailed guide on how to structure an effective neurosales pitch, using neuroscience principles to maximize the impact of each customer interaction. The goal is to design a pitch that not only informs about the product's features but also emotionally engages the customer, activating the areas of the brain that drive the purchasing action. The importance of an emotionally intelligent pitch. Clarick begins by highlighting that, to be a successful salesperson in the modern era, it's not enough to have a good product and know how to explain it. The salesperson must be able to emotionally connect with the customer at every point of the interaction. Neurosales focuses on understanding how the human brain responds to emotional stimuli, so a good pitch should activate those impulses so the customer feels that the purchase is the solution to their emotional needs. The human brain doesn't respond only to cold data or technical features. Instead of simply talking about what the product does, the salesperson must sell an emotional experience that aligns with the customer's subconscious desires. Neuroscience shows that emotions play a much more significant role than logic in making purchasing decisions, and an effective sales pitch must be designed to activate those emotions. The ideal structure of a neurosales pitch. The author proposes a clear structure in 3 key stages that any successful neurosales pitch should follow. Capturing attention. The first step in any neurosales pitch is to capture the customer's attention. Clarick explains that in the first few seconds of the interaction, the human brain has already decided whether the product or interaction is relevant to their interests. To achieve this, the salesperson must use emotional attraction strategies that spark curiosity and interest. To do this, the salesperson can start with an intriguing question related to the customer's emotional needs. Use an impactful or provocative statement that piques curiosity. Share stories that immediately connect with the customer's interests. Appeal to emotions by showing how the product or service will solve an emotional problem the customer is experiencing. For example, instead of beginning with a dull presentation about features, the salesperson could say something like, "Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you had more free time to enjoy the things that really matter to you?" This not only captures attention but also stirs an emotional need in the customer. Creating desire. Once attention has been captured, the next step is to create desire. The brain must feel that the product is not just needed but will improve the customer's life in a way that satisfies their emotional desires. Clarick explains that, to create this desire, the pitch should focus on the emotional benefits of the product, rather than just talking about its features. At this stage, the salesperson should connect with the customer's subconscious desires. For example, what emotional problem does the product solve? Does it offer security, happiness, or satisfaction? How will the customer feel when using the product? Will it make them feel more successful, free, or empowered? It's important for the salesperson to help the customer visualize how their life will positively change thanks to the product. Using phrases like, "Imagine how you'll feel when," or "with this product, you'll be able to enjoy," the salesperson begins to activate emotional areas of the brain that are directly related to the customer's desires and needs. Closing the sale. Finally, after capturing attention and creating desire, the next step is closing the sale. At this point, the customer must feel that the purchase is the ideal solution to satisfy their emotional needs. Clarick emphasizes that closing is not about simply asking for the purchase, but reinforcing the emotional decision the customer has already made subconsciously. To achieve this, the salesperson must reinforce the customer's trust by presenting social proof, such as testimonials from other satisfied customers or success stories. Appeal to urgency, showing the customer that the product is a limited-time opportunity, as in the scarcity principle, where the customer perceives that the offer won't be available for long. Clear any emotional doubts the customer might have, such as anxiety about making the decision or fear of commitment, through an empathetic approach. A good closing could be something like, "I know this is an important step for you, but I'm sure you'll make the best decision for your future. This product is designed to give you the peace of mind and success you're looking for, and I'm here to ensure you get the maximum benefit from it." The use of stories in the sales pitch. Clarick highlights the power of stories in a neuro-sales pitch. Stories allow the salesperson to stir emotions and connect with the customer on a deeper level. The human brain responds with a much stronger emotional reaction when it is told an engaging story that allows the customer to visualize themselves as the protagonist. A good story can be an effective way to show how the product has transformed others' lives or how it can solve specific problems for the customer. Stories are powerful because the human brain projects them as if they were reality, making the customer feel emotionally connected. The use of body language in the sales pitch. Clarick also mentions that, in addition to words, body language plays a fundamental role in the sales pitch. 93% of communication in any interaction is nonverbal, so a salesperson must be aware of how their body language impacts the customer. The salesperson should convey confidence and security through their posture, eye contact, and tone of voice. Open, relaxed, and confident body language conveys the feeling that the salesperson is committed to the customer's well-being, which generates a positive response in the brain. Empathy as part of the sales pitch. One of the most powerful tools for any salesperson is empathy. Clarick stresses that the salesperson must be able to put themselves in the customer's shoes, understand their emotions and concerns, and respond to them authentically. Empathy creates a sense of emotional connection that increases the customer's trust in the salesperson and, therefore, in the product. Conclusion. The neurosales pitch should not just be a presentation of features and benefits but an emotional experience that connects with the customer on a deep level. A good sales pitch must be structured to capture attention, create desire, and ultimately close the sale, all while activating positive emotions in the customer's brain. This chapter highlights the importance of emotional communication in the sales process and how salespeople can structure their pitches to be more effective by using neuroscience principles. By applying these strategies, salespeople can increase their chances of genuinely connecting with customers and closing more sales. Chapter 8: Specialized Neuro-Sales: How to Sell to Different Types of Customers. In this chapter, Jürgen Klarik addresses the importance of understanding that not all customers are the same. Each customer has a unique personality and behavior, so a one-size-fits-all sales approach won't always be effective. The author delves into how specialized neurosales allows sales strategies to be personalized to meet the emotional needs of different customer types. The importance of segmenting customers. Klarik begins by emphasizing that in the world of sales, the concept of segmentation applies not only to markets or products but also to customers. Just as there are different types of products for various markets, there are also different types of customers that require specialized sales approaches. By understanding the emotional and psychological differences among customers, salespeople can tailor their pitch and sales strategy to maximize emotional connection and increase the chances of closing. The brain of each customer reacts differently to the same stimuli, so personalizing the sales strategy is crucial for being more effective. Different types of customers and how to sell to them. Klarik proposes a classification of 3 main types of customers based on their emotional and psychological characteristics. Each of these types of customers requires a different strategy based on how their brain works and how they make purchasing decisions. Here are the 3 types of customers and how to sell to them effectively. The rational customer. The rational customer makes decisions primarily based on logic and reason. This type of customer values facts and objective information. Their brain prioritizes the functionality of the product and the price-quality ratio. For this type of customer, the salesperson should focus on providing detailed information about the product's features, performance, and the economic advantages it offers. Neurotip for the rational customer. The salesperson should present comparative data, case studies, and testimonials that reinforce the logical justification behind the purchase. Additionally, the presentation should be precise and structured, avoiding emotional distractions that are irrelevant to the customer. The emotional customer. The emotional customer makes decisions based on feelings and subjective perceptions. This type of customer is much more influenced by how the product makes them feel than by what it actually does. The brain of this type of customer responds strongly to the emotional benefits of the product, such as the sense of belonging, status, or pleasure. For this customer, what's most important is not the product itself, but what it represents emotionally. Neurotip for the emotional customer. The salesperson should focus on creating a deep emotional connection with the customer, appealing to their deepest emotional needs. Inspirational stories or testimonials from real people can be very effective for this type of customer, as well as helping them visualize how the product or service can significantly improve their life. The practical customer. The practical customer seeks products that are useful and solve problems directly. This type of customer is not swayed by emotions or lengthy logical justifications, but focuses on finding practical solutions that make life easier. The brain of this customer is constantly seeking efficiency, convenience, and ease of use. Neurotip for the practical customer. The salesperson should highlight how the product simplifies life or solves a problem immediately. For this type of customer, arguments about efficiency and direct solutions are more effective than emotional stories. The sale should focus on functionality and practicality, highlighting product features that are directly relevant to the customer. The salesperson as an emotion decoder. Klarik emphasizes that the salesperson must be an expert at reading and understanding the customer's emotions. Just like a psychologist or a conductor, the salesperson must adapt their approach according to how they perceive the customer. This means that the salesperson should not just follow a pre-established script, but remain attentive to the customer's emotional cues during the interaction and adjust their strategy accordingly. The human brain gives constant clues about which type of customer the salesperson is dealing with. For example, if the customer is asking many practical questions about the product's use and durability, they are likely a rational customer. If the customer is smiling or showing positive emotions when talking about the product, they are likely an emotional customer. If the customer is focused on ease of use or the direct solution to the problem, they are more likely a practical customer. The neuroscience behind adaptation. Neuroscience shows that the human brain is constantly evaluating its surroundings and adapting to new situations. This means that the successful salesperson must be able to quickly adjust to the customer's signals and offer the right information at the right moment. When a salesperson adapts their approach based on the type of customer, they activate specific areas of the brain that are more receptive to different types of stimuli. This not only improves the shopping experience but also increases the chances of success by aligning with the way the customer makes subconscious decisions. Building long-term relationships. Clarick also emphasizes that specialized neurosales are not just about closing a sale, but about building lasting relationships with customers. When a salesperson understands the emotional needs and subconscious desires of their customers, they can offer a shopping experience that not only solves an immediate problem but also creates a long-term bond with the customer. This bond can translate into repeat purchases and recommendations, as the customer feels understood and satisfied on an emotional level. Conclusion. This chapter shows that specialized neurosales are not only useful for closing immediate sales but also for cultivating deep relationships with customers. By understanding the different types of customers and their emotional needs, salespeople can tailor their strategies to connect effectively with each type of consumer. This ability to read and adjust their approach based on the customer's emotions is what distinguishes successful salespeople in today's competitive sales environment. Chapter 9. The Seller's Mind. How to connect emotionally with the customer. In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick explores a key concept in the sales process: how the seller's mindset influences their ability to connect emotionally with the customer. The author emphasizes that in order to succeed in neurosales, sellers must not only understand the customer but also work on their own mindset and emotions. The way a seller thinks, feels, and behaves directly impacts their ability to generate authentic connections with customers. The importance of the seller's mindset. Clarick begins by highlighting that a seller's mindset is fundamental to their success in sales. The seller is not just selling products but also an emotional experience. For this experience to be positive and effective, the seller must work on their own emotionality and how they emotionally relate to others. The seller's brain must be in an optimal state to transmit confidence and security to the customer. A seller who feels nervous, doubtful, or lacks confidence will transmit those same emotions to the customer, which can create an emotional barrier between them. On the other hand, a seller who feels confident, enthusiastic, and emotionally positive is much more likely to establish a genuine connection with the customer. The concept of emotional energy. One of the key ideas in the chapter is the concept of emotional energy. Clarick explains that emotions are contagious and can be transmitted from one person to another. In other words, when a seller is emotionally aligned with the sales process, that positive energy is transferred to the customer, who in turn becomes more open and receptive. The human brain is designed to pick up on the emotions of others, a phenomenon known as emotional synchronization or emotional empathy. If a seller is emotionally aligned with their customer, the customer will also feel connected and will be much more likely to make a purchase. It's essential for the seller to be aware of their own emotional energy and ensure that this positive energy is channeled appropriately throughout the interaction. Empathy, the key to emotional connection. Clarick emphasizes that empathy is one of the most important skills a seller can cultivate. Empathy is not just about understanding what the customer needs, but about feeling what the customer feels. This type of emotional connection allows the seller to adapt to the customer's emotions and respond authentically and effectively. The seller must be able to read the customer's emotions through their gestures, body language, and tone of voice. This ability to emotionally empathize with the customer enables the seller to adjust their approach, language, and communication style to make the customer feel understood and valued. The importance of authenticity. A central theme in this chapter is authenticity. Clarick insists that sellers must be authentic in their interactions with customers. The lack of authenticity is easily perceived by the customer, which can create an emotional barrier that hinders the sale. The human brain is very sensitive to inauthenticity and quickly detects when someone is not being genuine. For a seller to connect emotionally with a customer, They must be honest and act from a place of integrity. This authenticity creates a trust-based environment, facilitating a longer-lasting and more successful sales relationship. Clark emphasizes that authenticity does not mean the seller should be unprofessional. Instead, they should be able to be themselves and connect with the customer on a human level. Customers appreciate when a seller is transparent and shows up as they are, which fosters greater trust in the buying process. The role of positive emotions in sales. The chapter also explores how a positive seller influences the sales process. Positive emotions have a profound impact on the customer's brain. The human brain responds much better to positive stimuli than to negative ones, so an optimistic and enthusiastic seller is far more likely to generate a positive response from the customer. A positive seller not only improves their relationship with the customer but also inspires confidence and motivation for the customer to make favorable decisions. The customer's brain responds with greater willingness to make quick and satisfying decisions when they are in an emotionally positive environment. Building trust through emotional communication. Clark also emphasizes that emotional communication is a key factor in building trust with the customer. People don't just trust what is said to them, they trust how it is said. Nonverbal communication, such as body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions, plays a fundamental role in creating an authentic emotional connection. The seller must be able to read and adjust their nonverbal communication to ensure that they are transmitting the correct emotional message. For example, proper eye contact, a genuine smile, and an open posture can make the customer feel more comfortable and confident, increasing the likelihood of closing the sale. The positive mindset and its influence on sales success. Finally, Clark emphasizes the importance of a positive mindset for the seller. When a seller feels positive and confident about their product, that emotional state positively affects their performance. Salespeople must cultivate a success mindset, believing in the value of what they sell and in their ability to help customers. The human brain is highly sensitive to the thoughts and attitudes projected by sellers. If a seller believes they can help the customer and maintains a positive attitude, the customer feels more confident and motivated to make the purchase decision. Conclusion. This chapter emphasizes that, to be a successful seller, it is not only necessary to know the product but also to work on one's own mind and emotions. A seller who feels emotionally connected to their customer and projects an attitude of confidence and positivity has a greater ability to emotionally connect and generate successful sales. Additionally, authenticity and empathy are essential tools for building a genuine relationship that benefits both the customer and the seller. Chapter 10. Hiring and motivating sales teams. In this chapter, Jürgen Clark delves into one of the most crucial aspects of sales success, hiring and motivating a sales team. While products and sales strategies are important, it is the sales team that truly generates results. The author explains how the mindset of sellers, their emotional empathy, and their motivation can make the difference between success and failure in sales. The importance of hiring the right people. Clark begins by emphasizing that, for sales to be truly effective, the process must start with proper hiring. Selecting a sales team should not only be based on experience and technical skills but also on the emotional aptitude of the candidates. Salespeople need to have high emotional intelligence, which will allow them to connect with customers, read their emotions, and adjust their approach in a way that triggers the right emotional responses in the customer's brain. How to identify the best sellers. Clark suggests that the best salespeople must not only have persuasive skills but also a strong capacity for empathy, emotional resilience, and a positive attitude. It is essential that sellers are able to control their emotions because, in sales, rejection is part of the process. The best sellers are those who are not easily demotivated, they can bounce back quickly and continue with their work. Another important trait is intrinsic motivation. Successful salespeople do not work only for bonuses or commissions. They feel a genuine passion for helping others make purchasing decisions. This deeper motivation translates into more consistent performance and more genuine relationships with customers. Essential characteristics of a good seller. Clark highlights several characteristics that make an ideal salesperson. Empathy. Good salespeople must have a deep capacity to put themselves in the customer's shoes, understand their emotions and needs, and respond in a way that emotionally connects. Emotional resilience. Sales often involve rejection and failure. Successful salespeople are those who do not get discouraged by a no or a difficult situation. Resilience allows them to learn from their failures and move forward without losing enthusiasm. Effective communication. It's not just about knowing how to sell, but about doing so in a way that makes the customer feel understood and emotionally connected. Effective communication includes both verbal and nonverbal language, gestures, posture, tone of voice, and must be tailored to the customer's emotional personality. Self-confidence. A good salesperson must trust themselves and what they are offering. Confidence in the product and in their ability to emotionally connect with the customer is essential to closing sales. Adaptability. Every customer is different. A good salesperson must be able to adjust their approach and sales strategies to the customer's personality, needs, and emotions using the appropriate neuro-sales tools. The emotional motivation of salespeople. Clarick delves into the concept that, to keep salespeople motivated in the long term, it is not enough to offer financial incentives. Intrinsic motivation plays a key role in creating a highly effective sales team. Salespeople who feel they are doing something valuable and providing a meaningful solution to customers perform better than those who are only motivated by financial rewards. To achieve this, salespeople must feel that they are making a difference, that their efforts not only translate into a sale but also into a positive contribution to the customer's life. Clarick suggests that companies should foster an organizational culture where salespeople feel part of a common purpose, not just a company selling products. Techniques to motivate salespeople. Constant recognition. Recognition is one of the most powerful motivators. A salesperson who receives praise for their work, whether privately or publicly, feels valued and acknowledged. This activates emotional areas of the brain related to reward. Of course, recognition should not only be for performance but also for effort and a positive attitude. Emotional goals. Instead of only focusing on numerical sales targets, salespeople should have emotional goals that allow them to see the impact of their work. A goal might be helping a customer solve a problem or transforming their life through the product or service. These emotional goals help salespeople connect more deeply with the customer and with their own motivation. Ongoing emotional training. While sales techniques are essential, emotional training for salespeople is equally important. Emotional intelligence should be an integral part of the sales team's training. Salespeople must learn to manage their emotions, handle stress, and adapt to the emotions of customers. Non-monetary rewards. Emotional rewards play just as important a role as monetary ones. Incentives like trips, exclusive experiences, or social recognition can have a greater impact on motivation than financial bonuses. Emotional leadership. Leadership within the sales team must be emotionally intelligent. Leaders must be able to inspire their team, convey an emotionally engaging vision, and be available to provide emotional support when needed. Leaders should be role models in how to handle emotions, creating a more positive and productive work environment. Create a positive work environment. A positive and motivating work environment has a significant impact on the emotional well-being of salespeople. Teamwork, collaboration, and mutual support are factors that help salespeople feel part of something important. Companies that foster a culture of support and open communication ensure their sales teams are more engaged and motivated. Neuroscience applied to motivation. Clarick introduces the concept that dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward, plays an important role in motivating salespeople. Dopamine is released when salespeople receive recognition, achieve a goal, or receive an emotional reward. This release reinforces the behavior and makes salespeople eager to continue achieving objectives. Sales leaders must be aware of how emotional rewards influence their team's motivation. By creating a culture where positive emotions are valued and celebrated, they ensure that salespeople remain highly motivated and committed to their work. Conclusion. This chapter emphasizes that, to have a truly successful sales team, companies must focus on hiring the right people, emotionally motivating salespeople, and creating a positive environment. Emotional intelligence and empathy are crucial tools for salespeople to connect with customers authentically. Additionally, leaders must be inspiring and emotionally intelligent, guiding their team toward success not only with financial incentives but also by creating an environment that fosters emotional satisfaction and intrinsic motivation. Chapter 11. Neuro-sales for commoditized products. In this chapter, Jürgen Klarik focuses on one of the most challenging situations for salespeople: how to apply neuro-sales techniques to commoditized products. Commoditized products are those that lack clear differentiation and are sold through competitive pricing rather than unique features. This type of product is common in many industries, such as consumer goods and basic services, where customers may feel that all products are the same. The difficulty of selling commoditized products. Klarik begins the chapter by pointing out that selling commoditized products can be an emotional challenge for salespeople. When customers perceive that all products are the same, purchasing decisions are based on rational factors such as price or availability rather than emotions or perceived value. This represents a significant barrier for salespeople, as emotional differentiation is lost. In the case of commoditized products, salespeople cannot simply highlight exclusivity or emotional benefits as they would with luxury products or specialized services. The consumer's brain tends to seek simple, practical solutions, and the lack of distinction between products means the customer's brain does not activate the emotional areas that facilitate quicker purchases. The key: creating emotional value in commoditized products. Despite the difficulty of selling commoditized products, Klarik argues that it is possible to create emotional value even for products that seem irrelevant or standardized. The key is to focus the sales pitch on what the product represents or how it subtly but meaningfully improves the customer's life. The author explains that even a basic product can create an emotional connection if framed correctly. This involves seeing the product not just as a functional tool but as an integral part of the customer's life that fulfills an emotional need. The emotional differentiation strategy. To sell commoditized products, Klarik proposes the strategy of emotional differentiation. This strategy involves creating an emotional connection with the customer, even if the product itself does not have exceptional features. The idea is to associate the product with an emotional experience that the customer values. For example, if a salesperson is offering hand soap, a commoditized product, instead of focusing on its composition or functional benefits, the salesperson could focus on how the product enhances the customer's daily routine, providing a moment of calm or hygiene that improves their well-being. This approach transforms an everyday product into an experience that holds emotional value for the consumer. Using storytelling for commoditized products. Klarik emphasizes that one of the most powerful tools for creating an emotional connection when selling commoditized products is the use of stories. Stories are a way to humanize the product, associating it with real situations that customers can recognize and see themselves reflected in. For example, if selling a telecommunications service, a very competitive and commoditized market, the salesperson could tell the story of a customer who, thanks to a fast and reliable connection, was able to stay more connected with their family, work, or feel safer by having access to emergency services. Stories allow the product to become a personal experience that goes beyond its functional characteristics, creating a community around the product. Another way salespeople can add emotional value to commoditized products is by creating a community around the product or brand. When a product is perceived as part of a community, people are more willing to buy it because of the sense of belonging it generates. Klarik suggests that brands focus on creating an identity around their products. This can be achieved through marketing campaigns that appeal to common values, such as solidarity, sustainability, or innovation, which create an emotional connection with the customer. For example, brands like Tom's or Patagonia don't just sell products like shoes or clothing. These products are presented as part of a movement, which generates in the customer the desire to be part of that cause. The symbolic value of the product becomes a decisive emotional factor. Using price as an emotional value. In the case of commoditized products, price is often a decisive factor in the purchase. However, Klarik points out that even the price can be framed emotionally in an effective way. A fair or accessible price can be perceived as a demonstration of honesty or value by the brand. In other words, Customers may feel they are getting something of quality without having to pay extra. Additionally, offering discounts or special offers can generate a sense of emotional gratification, as the human brain tends to value more what is perceived as a bargain or a limited opportunity. The importance of perceived value. Clarick explains that the perception of value is not determined solely by the price or the functional features of the product, but by how the customer perceives the product within their life and within the market. The perception of value is emotional, and therefore it should be addressed with communication strategies that highlight the emotional utility of the product. In other words, while a product may be a commodity from a technical standpoint, there is always an opportunity to create an emotional perception that makes it stand out from other products in the market. Conclusion. This chapter shows that even commoditized products can be sold successfully if the right neuroscience-based approach is applied. Although these products lack clear functional differentiation, salespeople can add significant emotional value by focusing on the subconscious needs and desires of the customer. Through stories, symbolic value, and community building, products can become more than just a transaction. They can represent an emotional experience that deeply resonates with the customer. The salesperson who manages to add emotional value to commoditized products not only has a higher chance of success in closing sales but also creates more sustainable relationships with customers. Chapter 12. Selling to the Mind of Your Customer, Techniques that Evoke Emotions. In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick delves into the emotional techniques that salespeople can use to trigger customers' emotions during the sales process. These techniques are designed to activate specific areas of the consumer's brain that are related to emotional decision-making. The goal is to make the customer not only want to buy but feel the need to buy at that moment. The importance of emotional connection in sales. Clarick begins this chapter by emphasizing that, in a world where products have become homogenized and information is abundant, the emotional customer is the one who makes the final decisions. Emotions influence purchasing decisions far more than logic or rational information. Therefore, understanding how to evoke positive emotions in the customer is crucial for closing successful sales. The author explains that salespeople who manage to connect emotionally with their customers have a significant advantage, as emotional decisions are often quicker and more definitive. The customer's emotional brain is looking for something that makes them feel good, safe, or valuable, and the salesperson must be able to trigger those emotions. Neuroselling techniques to evoke emotions. Using emotional stories. One of the most powerful techniques is telling stories that create an emotional connection. Stories help the customer visualize themselves in an emotionally appealing situation, generating a strong response in their emotional brain. Clarick points out that stories not only capture attention but also help build an emotional relationship with the product. The customer does not just buy an item, they connect with the story of how that product can transform their life. Whether it's a success story, a satisfied customer case, or a narrative showing how the product can solve a problem, stories are an effective tool to activate the emotional areas of the customer's brain. Example: if a salesperson is promoting a security service, instead of just talking about features, they could tell the story of a family who felt safe thanks to the security system they purchased, highlighting how that safety gave them peace of mind and allowed them to enjoy their life more. Appealing to the senses. Clarick also highlights the importance of activating the customer's senses to make the shopping experience more vivid and emotional. The senses are a direct channel to the emotional brain, and when a salesperson uses visual, auditory, and tactile stimuli, they activate areas of the brain directly related to pleasure and satisfaction. For example, in a beauty product store, the salesperson can let the customer smell or touch the product, which creates a complete sensory experience associated with emotional pleasures. Additionally, the colors, background music, and ambience in which the sale takes place can play a crucial role in creating positive feelings. Creating a sense of scarcity. The principle of scarcity is an emotional technique that plays on the feeling of urgency and the desire to obtain something before it runs out. Scarcity activates the dopamine system in the brain, creating an immediate emotional response, as the human brain perceives scarcity as a unique and valuable opportunity. Instead of waiting for the customer to make the purchase decision in their own time, the salesperson can use phrases like, "This offer is only available until tomorrow," or "Only a few units left," creating a sense of urgency that triggers immediate action. Using reciprocity. Clark also mentions the principle of reciprocity. This principle is based on the idea that when someone does us a favor, we feel emotionally obligated to return it. Salespeople can use this principle by offering something for free or of value to the customer, such as a free demonstration, a small gift, or an exclusive discount. This act of giving generates a positive emotional response in the customer, making them more willing to make a purchase decision. Example: if a salesperson offers a free sample of a product, the customer feels grateful and more inclined to buy the product, as the brain perceives it as a gesture of generosity that should be reciprocated. Using social proof. People tend to follow the behavior of others, especially when they feel uncomfortable or uncertain. The principle of social proof refers to the idea that if others have made a positive decision, the customer will feel more confident and motivated to make the same choice. Clark suggests that salespeople use testimonials from satisfied customers, success stories, and positive reviews to create a sense that other customers have experienced satisfactory results. This generates an emotional response in the customer, as social validation reduces perceived risk and increases confidence in the product. For example, a salesperson might say, "Over 1,000 customers have already tried this product and seen incredible results," which triggers the feeling in the customer that if others have done it, so can they. Future visualization. Another effective emotional technique is to make the customer visualize the future with the product. The salesperson should paint an emotional picture of how the product will transform the customer's life, showing them a positive and desirable future. Example: if the salesperson is offering an exercise product, they might say, "Imagine how you will feel after using this equipment for just a few weeks. You'll have more energy, look better, and feel healthier than ever." This type of visualization activates the emotional areas of the brain that drive the person to take action. The neuroscience behind these techniques. Clark emphasizes that the techniques mentioned are based on solid neuroscientific principles. For example, the use of scarcity and urgency activates the reptilian brain, which is the part of the brain that responds to the fear of missing an opportunity. Reciprocity and social proof activate the reward system, dopamine, while emotional stories and visualization connect with the limbic brain, which is linked to emotions and decision-making. These techniques help salespeople emotionally connect with customers, significantly increasing the chances of closing sales. Conclusion. The chapter highlights that emotional selling is key to any successful salesperson. It's not just about informing the customer about the features of the product, but about activating positive emotions that motivate the customer to make the purchase decision. By awakening specific emotions, salespeople can make customers not only desire the product but feel that they need it now. The techniques presented in this chapter are powerful tools to increase sales effectiveness through applied neuroscience. Chapter 13. The Value of Difference: How to Stand Out in Saturated Markets. In this chapter, Jürgen Clark delves into one of the major challenges faced by salespeople and brands: how to stand out in saturated markets. In a world where consumers are constantly bombarded with advertising and similar product options, companies must find ways to differentiate themselves and capture the customer's attention. Clark explains that, to stand out in these markets, brands must create a unique identity that emotionally resonates with customers. Market saturation and its impact on sales. Clark begins this chapter by highlighting that market saturation has increased in many industries. Consumers have access to a vast array of similar products, and in many cases, the differences between them are minimal. This has created an environment of fierce competition where companies struggle to stand out and capture the attention of customers. In a saturated market, price and product features are no longer the determining factors. The customer has too many options available, leading to misinformation and indifference. This is where emotional differentiation becomes a crucial factor in capturing the consumer's attention and preference. The importance of emotional differentiation. Clark explains that emotional differentiation is key to standing out in a saturated market. Customers don't buy products just because they are functional. They buy products that evoke positive emotions and make them feel connected to an identity or a shared value. In other words, brands must find an emotional difference that is unique, something customers perceive as authentic and that addresses their emotional needs. Instead of simply talking about the product's features, companies must create an emotional narrative around their brand. This narrative should tell a story that resonates with customers, showing how the product makes a significant difference in their lives. Emotional differentiation is based on what the customer feels about the product, not just what the product does. How to create emotional differentiation. Claric offers a series of strategies to create emotional differentiation in a saturated market. Deeply know the customer. The first key to emotionally differentiate is to deeply understand the customer. This means understanding not just what the customer needs, but also what they feel and want on an emotional level. Salespeople must understand the customer's subconscious motivations, what drives them to make purchasing decisions, and what emotional needs they are trying to fulfill. The more aligned the product is with the customer's emotional needs, the more likely the customer will identify with the brand. Create a unique identity for the brand. Brands that stand out in saturated markets are those that have created a unique identity that resonates with consumers' emotions. This identity must be consistent across all customer touchpoints, from product design to customer service and advertising. The brand must have an emotional purpose that connects with the values and desires of customers. An example is the Apple brand, which not only sells advanced technology but has also created an identity of innovation, exclusivity, and simplicity. Customers who buy Apple products are not just purchasing a phone or a computer, they are buying an emotional experience that aligns with their identity as innovators and forward-thinking people. Establishing an emotional connection through stories. As mentioned in previous chapters, telling emotional stories is a powerful way to create a market difference. Stories help the customer visualize what they might experience by using the product and emotionally connect them to the brand. By creating a genuine narrative that resonates with the customer's values, salespeople can establish a deep connection that not only influences the purchase but also fosters loyalty. For example, if a brand is promoting an eco-friendly product rather than simply selling it as a green product, they could tell the story of how this product helps protect the environment, generating a sense of responsibility and pride in consumers who value sustainability. Using the concept of scarcity to create exclusivity. The principle of scarcity is a powerful emotional differentiation technique. By making the customer perceive that the product is limited, unique, or exclusive, the salesperson activates the desire to own something special. Scarcity creates a sense of urgency, and the customer feels they must act quickly to avoid missing out on a unique opportunity. Brands can create limited-time offers or launch exclusive products only for selected customers. This strategy not only differentiates the product but also strengthens the emotional connection the customer has with the brand, as they feel they are getting something special. Fostering a community around the brand. An effective way to create emotional differentiation is to build a community of people who share the same values and passions surrounding the product. Brands that succeed in creating a customer community benefit from loyalty and word-of-mouth recommendations. The community not only supports the brand but also creates a sense of belonging and social validation. An example of this is the Nike brand, which has built a global community of people committed to sports and personal achievement. Customers don't just buy sportswear, they identify with the brand as an active community. The neuroscience of emotional differentiation. Claric mentions that neuroscience plays a key role in how customers react to emotional differentiation. When a customer emotionally connects with a brand, areas of the brain related to pleasure, reward, and motivation are activated. The human brain seeks experiences that are not only functional but also make it feel good. By creating a unique emotional experience, brands can activate these areas of the brain and stimulate positive emotional responses that lead to a purchase. The key is to design an emotionally intelligent strategy that connects with the customer's values and desires. Conclusion. This chapter highlights that in a saturated market, emotional differentiation is the key to standing out from the crowd. Brands must find ways to emotionally connect with customers, whether through genuine stories, a unique identity, or by creating a community around their products. By doing so, they can transform a common product into a unique experience that not only attracts the customer but also fosters long-term loyalty. Chapter 14. The influence of body language in the sales process. In this chapter, Jürgen Klarich explores one of the most powerful and often overlooked aspects of the sales process, body language. Klarich explains that while words and speeches are fundamental in selling, nonverbal language has a much greater impact than most salespeople realize. The human brain is incredibly sensitive to nonverbal cues, and these signals play a crucial role in building trust, credibility, and ultimately, in the customer's purchasing decision. The importance of body language in sales. Klarich begins the chapter by noting that, according to Albert Mehrabian's studies, only 7% of communication is based on the words we say, while 55% comes from body language and 38% from the tone of our voice. This means that even if the words are accurate and convincing, if the salesperson's body language doesn't match the verbal message, the customer may feel that the salesperson is not genuine or trustworthy. The customer's brain is constantly analyzing and processing the salesperson's gestures, expressions, and posture, even subconsciously. If the salesperson's body language is closed, tense, or distrustful, the customer will perceive this as a sign that the salesperson is unsure of what they are offering, which generates doubts and resistance. How to use body language to build trust. Klarich explains that the first step in using body language effectively is to project confidence. The human brain is designed to identify signs of trust or threat. If a salesperson doesn't convey confidence with their body, the customer will automatically feel uncomfortable or doubtful. Klarich then provides a series of body language techniques that salespeople can use to strengthen trust and credibility during a sale. Open and relaxed posture. A closed or defensive posture, such as crossing arms, creates a sense of distrust. The salesperson should maintain an open posture, with arms relaxed at their sides or in a position that suggests openness and willingness. This posture conveys that the salesperson is ready to listen and open to conversation. Maintain proper eye contact. Eye contact is one of the most powerful signals of body language. Klarich recommends looking the customer in the eyes during conversations, as this conveys honesty, security, and attentiveness. However, it's important not to intensify eye contact to the point where it feels intimidating or aggressive. The right balance is key. Too much eye contact can be uncomfortable, while too little can be interpreted as a sign of evasion or distrust. Genuine smile. A genuine smile not only makes the salesperson appear more approachable, but it also triggers the release of dopamine in the customer's brain, generating a positive emotional response. Klarich emphasizes that an authentic smile conveys that the salesperson is emotionally involved in the conversation and the customer's experience. A fake or forced smile can make the customer perceive the salesperson as insincere. Visible and relaxed hands. Hands are one of the most expressive parts of the body in body language. Klarich advises that the salesperson keep their hands visible during the interaction, as this creates a sense of transparency and honesty. Avoiding gestures like touching the face or rubbing the hands can prevent the customer from perceiving signs of insecurity or nervousness. Use gestures in accordance with words. Body language should align with the words the salesperson is saying. For example, if the salesperson talks about a product as high quality, their body language should reflect that statement, with gestures of confidence and assurance. A salesperson who says the product is fantastic but shows signs of doubt through body language will send a contradictory message, which can create distrust in the customer. The power of tone and rhythm. In addition to body language, Klarich explains that the tone and rhythm of the voice are crucial in sales communication. The way a salesperson speaks has a direct impact on the customer's emotions. Confident tone of voice. The tone of voice should be calm, confident, and friendly. Klarich mentions that a rigid or monotonous tone can generate a negative perception, while a varied and enthusiastic tone conveys energy and positivity. Additionally, when a salesperson varies the rhythm of their speech, it helps maintain the customer's interest and prevents the conversation from becoming dull or monotonous. Strategic pauses. Making pauses during the speech allows the salesperson to reflect on what they're saying and, at the same time, gives the customer space to process the information. Pauses also increase emotional tension, making the customer pay more attention to what comes next. Moreover, appropriate pauses can make the customer feel that the salesperson is interested in their thoughts and opinions. Emotional tone. Using an emotional tone to communicate the value of a product can help activate the customer's emotional brain. Instead of simply listing features, the salesperson can use a tone that highlights the emotional impact of the product, such as the pleasure, security, or satisfaction the customer will experience by using it. Be aware of signs of incongruence. Cleric points out that salespeople must be aware of signs of incongruence between their body language and what they are saying. If a salesperson smiles and says something like, "This product is the best," but their arms are crossed or they don't maintain eye contact, the customer will perceive insecurity or insincerity. Therefore, it is essential that salespeople work on the congruence between what they say, how they say it, and how they physically convey it. If there's a discordance between words and body language, the customer's brain will perceive it as distrust or lack of authenticity. Conclusion. This chapter highlights the crucial importance of body language in the sales process. The customer's brain is constantly reading and decoding nonverbal signals, which have a much greater impact than words on the buying decision. Salespeople should be aware of how their gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, and posture influence their interaction with the customer. A salesperson who masters their body language and uses it consistently with their verbal message can create a deeper connection with the customer, increasing the likelihood of closing a sale. Chapter 15. Selling without selling. Persuasion at the point of contact. In this chapter, Jürgen Cleric introduces one of the most powerful techniques in sales, selling without selling. Often, subtle persuasion and the ability to influence the customer without seeming aggressive or direct is what sets an expert salesperson apart. Cleric emphasizes that the sales process doesn't always have to involve traditional sales techniques. In many cases, persuasion and closing a sale can occur without the customer feeling like they're being sold to. Subtle persuasion. Cleric begins this chapter by explaining that true persuasion is not about pressuring the customer to buy immediately, but about creating an atmosphere that inspires the customer to make the decision on their own. The salesperson should be able to naturally influence the customer's purchasing decision in a way that makes the customer feel like it's their own choice. Subtle persuasion works best when the salesperson actively listens to the customer's needs, provides information that perfectly matches those needs, and makes the customer feel that they've arrived at their purchase decision voluntarily. The power of suggestion. Cleric highlights that one of the most effective ways to sell without selling is through suggestion. By suggesting how the product or service can solve the customer's problems or improve their life, the salesperson creates a mental image where the customer already sees themselves benefiting from the purchase. For example, if a customer is considering a financial advisory service, the salesperson might say, "Imagine how you'd feel if you had a clear plan for your financial future, with no worries. This service can provide you with that kind of peace of mind." This subtle suggestion doesn't pressure the customer, but it helps them visualize the benefits of the product or service and connects them emotionally to the purchase. Subtle persuasion often relies on what Cleric calls the law of desire, which is the ability of the salesperson to make the customer want the product before a direct offer is made. The salesperson can plant the seed of this desire throughout the conversation, making the customer feel that the product is what they need to improve their life. That it's not a sale, it's a solution technique. One of the most powerful tactics of subtle persuasion is making the customer feel like they're not being sold to, but rather making an informed decision that will solve a problem or fulfill an emotional need. "I'm not selling you, I'm offering you a solution" is a phrase that can disarm the customer's defenses, as it makes them feel free to make their decision without pressure. The salesperson should focus on the solution that their product provides, rather than the transaction itself. The emphasis should be on how the product helps the customer overcome a challenge, making the purchase decision feel natural and not forced. The power of positive language and positive attitude. Cleric also points out that a positive attitude and positive language are essential for persuasion to be effective. A salesperson who shows enthusiasm and creates an optimistic environment generates a positive emotional response in the customer. The salesperson's attitude is contagious, so when the salesperson displays confidence and optimism about the product, the customer will also feel more enthusiastic and optimistic about the purchase. The language used also plays an important role. Positive phrases such as, "This product will change the way you," "It will help you achieve your goals," or "This is the best decision you can make for." Focus the conversation on the positive benefits the customer will experience. The key question technique. One of the most effective questions a salesperson can ask to close a sale without pressuring is the key question. This question helps guide the customer towards the purchase decision without being too obvious or direct. Some key questions used in subtle persuasion include: how would you feel if you solved this problem now? How do you think this product could improve your day-to-day life? What do you think will happen if you don't make a decision today? These questions open the conversation to emotional reflection, helping the customer visualize the benefits of the purchase without feeling pressured. Creating a sense of urgency without pressuring. Although subtle persuasion is based on avoiding direct pressure, Cleric mentions that sometimes it's necessary to create a sense of urgency without the customer feeling manipulated. One way to do this is by using the principle of scarcity or limited opportunity. For example, the salesperson might say, "We know that this product has been selling out quickly, and there are only a few units left. If you decide to act today, you'll be able to take advantage of the special offer." This kind of message creates a sense of urgency without making the customer feel pressured. The power of active listening. One of the most effective tools for selling without selling is actively listening to the customer. Cleric explains that by truly paying attention to the customer's concerns and desires, the salesperson can adjust their approach to offer what the customer truly needs, without having to sell it directly. Active listening means understanding not just the customer's words but also their underlying emotions and needs. The salesperson can ask open-ended questions and use reflective language to demonstrate that they truly understand what the customer is looking for, which strengthens the emotional connection and facilitates a more organic sale. Conclusion. This chapter demonstrates that selling without selling is a powerful persuasion technique that relies on emotionally connecting with the customer and guiding them toward the purchase decision naturally and without pressure. By using subtle techniques like suggestion, the key question, and active listening, salespeople can positively influence the customer's buying decisions, making the sale a smooth and effortless experience. The key is to make the customer feel like they are making the decision on their own, which reinforces their confidence in the purchase. Chapter 16. How to close sales using neuroscience principles. In this chapter, Jürgen Cleric explores how salespeople can close sales more effectively by using principles of neuroscience. Cleric emphasizes that the human brain makes buying decisions emotionally long before being influenced by reason. Therefore, understanding how the brain functions during the purchasing decision process can help salespeople close sales more successfully and without pressuring the customer. Decision-making in the customer's brain. Cleric begins by highlighting that the human brain makes decisions based on a combination of emotion and reason. However, emotion plays a much more important role than many believe, as the emotional brain, specifically the limbic system, has the final say when it comes to making decisions. When a customer is making a purchasing decision, the limbic brain evaluates how they will feel about the purchase, while the neocortex, which is related to rational thought, only intervenes to justify that emotional decision. For this reason, a successful salesperson must focus on activating the right emotions to make the customer feel that the product is what they need, while the rational brain justifies it. How to apply neuroscience principles in closing sales. Cleric introduces several neuroscience principles that salespeople can use to improve their sales closing rates, based on how the brain processes information and makes decisions. The scarcity principle. One of the most effective neuroscience principles in sales is the scarcity principle. The human brain is programmed to value what is limited or scarce. The feeling that something is unique or may disappear makes the brain release dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This dopamine release creates an emotional sense of urgency, causing the customer to want to act quickly to avoid missing out. The salesperson can use phrases like "only a few units left of this product," or "this special offer is only available until the end of the month." These phrases activate the urgency mechanism in the customer's brain, prompting them to make the purchase decision immediately. The reciprocity principle. The reciprocity principle is another key concept deeply tied to the neuroscience of human behavior. According to this principle, when someone does something for us, we feel emotionally obligated to return the favor. This principle can be effectively used during the closing of a sale by offering something of value to the customer before asking for a purchase. For example, a salesperson might offer a free trial, an exclusive discount, or a bonus gift with the purchase. By receiving something, the customer feels the need to return the favor and becomes more inclined to complete the purchase. This act of giving generates an emotional response in the customer, which becomes a motivation to finish the transaction. The authority principle. Clark explains that people tend to trust those they perceive as experts or authority figures. This principle is based on the neuroscience of trust. The human brain tends to follow the recommendations of someone who presents themselves as a reliable figure. The salesperson can reinforce their authority during the sales closing by highlighting their expertise and knowledge or sharing testimonials and expert recommendations that back up the product. By doing so, the salesperson activates the customer's trust, making them feel more secure in their purchase decision. The social proof principle. Social proof refers to the human tendency to follow the behavior of others, especially when we're unsure about what we're doing. The human brain constantly seeks social confirmation, meaning signals that we are making the right decision. Customer testimonials are one of the most effective ways to activate this principle in closing a sale. Clark suggests that salespeople use testimonials, customer reviews, and success stories to show how others have received significant benefits from the product. This kind of social validation creates a sense of security in the customer and reinforces their purchase decision. The consistency principle. The consistency principle is related to the neuroscience behind our need to keep our decisions and actions aligned with what we've said or done previously. The human brain feels uncomfortable with inconsistency, so if a customer has shown interest in a product, they are more likely to complete the purchase to maintain consistency with their previous actions. Salespeople can use this principle during the sales closing by reminding the customer why they were initially interested in the product, asking questions like, "Do you remember why you were looking for a solution like this?" Or, "Do you recall how this product can efficiently solve your problem?" This approach makes the customer reaffirm their purchase intention, as it feels consistent with their decision. Visualization of benefits. Clark explains that visualization is a powerful emotional technique that can help close sales effectively. Neuroscience tells us that the brain cannot distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. Therefore, if the salesperson can make the customer visualize how their life will improve after the purchase, they are activating the customer's emotional brain. The salesperson can use phrases like, "Imagine how you will feel using this product every day," or "Picture having more time to enjoy your life thanks to this service." This visualization activates the limbic brain, which generates positive emotions and strengthens the desire to make the purchase. The soft close. Clark emphasizes that, to be successful in closing sales, the salesperson should opt for a soft close, which relies on emotional influence rather than direct pressure. The soft close does not involve an aggressive sales technique, but rather an approach that facilitates the customer in making their own decision without feeling pressured. The salesperson should adjust the approach based on the customer's emotional responses and provide a natural close that results from a successful emotional connection. A soft close allows the customer to feel in control of the decision and that the purchase was their choice. Conclusion. This chapter highlights how neuroscience can be applied to the sales closing process to make customers make emotional decisions that they justify with logical reasons. By using principles such as scarcity, reciprocity, authority, and social validation, salespeople can guide the customer through the purchasing decision process without applying direct pressure. The key to successfully closing sales is to activate the customer's emotions in a way that makes them feel motivated and confident in their choice. Chapter 17. Innovation and Added Value in Sales. In this chapter, Jürgen Clark explores how innovation and added value play a crucial role in effective selling. In a highly competitive environment where products and services are quickly copied, companies must go beyond what the customer expects to create genuine value that not only attracts but also retains customers. Clark explains that true innovation is not only about creating a unique product, but also about offering something that improves the customer's life in a way they hadn't anticipated. The importance of innovation in sales. Clarick begins this chapter by emphasizing that innovation is a key concept for any salesperson who wants to remain relevant and competitive in a saturated market. In a world where brands compete not only for customers' attention but also for their loyalty, companies that stand out are those that offer something new, creative, and useful to their customers. However, innovation is not just about what is sold, but how it is presented and how that value is delivered to the customer. Innovation in the product or service must be accompanied by a unique experience that differentiates the brand. The goal is not just to sell, but for the customer to perceive a unique value that makes them want to return and recommend the product or service. To achieve this, Clarick emphasizes the importance of deeply understanding the customer and identifying their unmet needs, those they don't yet know they have or haven't identified yet. Added value, creating memorable experiences. The concept of added value goes beyond simply offering a quality product or service. It is about creating a memorable experience that touches the customer's emotions and makes them feel that they have received more than they expected. Clarick points out that customers do not only buy products, they buy experiences and feelings that make them feel they have made the best decision. This experience must be consistent and valuable at all customer touchpoints with the brand. Example, a clothing brand that not only sells garments but creates an exceptional shopping experience with attractive store designs, personalized service, and exceptional customer care, creates added value that makes the customer return, even if competitors have similar or cheaper products. How to generate emotional added value. Emotional added value is generated when the product or service not only satisfies a basic need but also evokes positive emotions in the customer. To achieve this, Clarick recommends several strategies. Personalizing the experience. Consumers greatly value when a brand tailors its offering to their specific needs. Through personalization, companies can emotionally engage customers. From a customized product to an adapted service, anything that makes the customer feel they are receiving something unique and differentiated generates strong emotional value. Creating an emotional connection through purpose. Today's customers do not just buy products, they buy products with a purpose. Brands like Tom's or Patagonia do not only sell products, they sell values and causes. Clarick underscores that if a salesperson can link their offer to a purpose that resonates emotionally with the customer, they will be more inclined to make the purchase, not just for the tangible value, but also for the positive impact it has on the world. Exceeding expectations. One way to offer added value is always to exceed the customer's expectations. If a salesperson promises a specific benefit and delivers on it, the customer will be satisfied, but if they surpass that promise, the experience will be even more memorable. In this case, the added value lies in the positive surprise the customer experiences by receiving more than expected. Creating community and belonging. Customers seek to feel part of something larger than themselves. Brands that build a community around their product, offering exclusive experiences, events, loyalty programs, or access to networks of like-minded customers, manage to create a strong sense of belonging. This emotional added value fosters long-term loyalty and turns customers into brand ambassadors. Innovation in the sales process. Innovation should not be limited to the product or service alone, it should also apply to the sales process. Clarick suggests that companies implement innovative techniques throughout the entire sales process to create a unique experience for the customer. Some key ideas include using technology to enhance the experience. Companies that effectively integrate technology into the sales process, such as augmented reality or interactive apps, can revolutionize the shopping experience and add extra value for customers. Optimizing the online shopping experience. In the digital age, sellers must ensure that the online purchasing process is simple, fast, and personalized. This can include personalized recommendations based on the customer's browsing behavior or expedited delivery services. Innovative customer service. Providing customer service that goes beyond what is expected, such as proactive support or personalized advice, creates an experience that adds significant emotional value to the customer. The value of exclusivity. The value of exclusivity refers to the perception that the customer is receiving something unique or special. Exclusive offers, limited edition products, or exclusive access to services create a sense of privilege and desirability. This sense of exclusivity activates the customer's brain and reinforces the perceived value of the purchase. Clarick asserts that when a customer feels that their purchase is unique or that they have been part of an exclusive experience, there is an emotional reward associated with the transaction. This, in turn, strengthens the customer's relationship with the brand and increases the likelihood of repeat purchases. Neuroscience behind added value. Clarick explains that neuroscience supports the effectiveness of creating emotional added value. When salespeople manage to evoke positive emotions in customers, such as pleasure, gratitude, and satisfaction, the brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, two neurotransmitters associated with reward and happiness. These neurotransmitters not only strengthen the emotional bond with the brand but also increase the likelihood of customer loyalty. Conclusion. This chapter emphasizes that in the world of sales, innovation and added value are more than just features. They are the key to creating a unique experience that retains customers and turns them into brand ambassadors. True innovation is not just about creating unique products but offering emotional experiences that exceed customer expectations. This approach adds real and emotional value that can make the customer not only buy once but return again and again. Chapter 18. The Future of Neuro-Sales, Trends and Technological Tools. In this chapter, Jürgen Clarick looks to the future of neurosales, exploring how technological trends and advancements in neuroscience are shaping how businesses make sales and how sellers can leverage these innovations to optimize their sales strategies. The chapter focuses on how technological tools are enabling sellers to connect more deeply with customers on an emotional level and how new technologies are revolutionizing the personalized sales process. The evolution of neurosales. Clarick begins the chapter by pointing out that neurosales have evolved significantly in recent years. While previously sales relied mainly on verbal persuasion and closing techniques, today neurosales focus on emotionally connecting with customers, using neuroscience principles to influence their buying decisions. The author explains that as technology advances, companies now have access to vast amounts of data and tools that allow them to better understand how consumer brains work than ever before. New technologies enable salespeople to tailor their approaches and strategies in a much more personalized way, maximizing the impact of each interaction. Technological trends in the world of sales. Clarick mentions some of the most important technological trends that are transforming neurosales and how sellers can leverage them to achieve better results. Big data and predictive analytics. Companies now have access to enormous amounts of data on customer behavior, such as purchase preferences, browsing patterns, and consumption habits. Clarick explains that big data and predictive analytics allow salespeople to anticipate what a customer may need or want before they even realize it. This data helps personalize the shopping experience and optimize the offering of products or services. For example, sellers can use data analysis to predict which products customers will be interested in buying based on their purchase history or previous interactions with the brand. This allows businesses to offer personalized deals and increase conversion chances. Artificial intelligence, AI, and chatbots. The use of artificial intelligence, AI, has revolutionized the way salespeople interact with customers. Intelligent chatbots, powered by AI, are capable of interacting with customers in an emotionally intelligent manner, using natural language to provide personalized responses and maintain real-time conversations. Clarick explains that chatbots are not only used to answer questions but also to guide customers through the purchasing process, suggest products, and offer personalized recommendations based on customer behavior. These virtual assistants can replace some traditional human interactions and optimize the sales process, providing a continuous and efficient experience. Augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR. Augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR, are emerging as powerful tools for creating immersive shopping experiences. Clarick mentions that brands are using these technologies to allow customers to visualize how a product or service might fit into their lives. For example, in the fashion sector, AR apps allow customers to try on clothes virtually without having to visit the store. In real estate, VR allows customers to take virtual tours of properties without being physically present. These immersive experiences not only enhance the customer experience but also trigger emotions that encourage purchasing. Personalized marketing and automation. Cleric highlights the growing importance of personalized marketing and sales automation. Marketing automation tools allow businesses to personalize messages and offers more effectively based on past behaviors and customer interests. Automated marketing uses neuroscience by analyzing emotional patterns in customer interactions with the brand, sending emotional messages designed to activate brain areas related to decision-making. Companies can send personalized messages via email, SMS, or social media to create a personalized shopping experience that makes the customer feel understood and valued. Facial recognition technology. Facial recognition technology is also gaining ground in the field of neurosales. This technology allows sellers to analyze customer emotions in real time by measuring facial expressions such as smiles, surprise, or distrust. Cleric explains that this information can be used to adjust the sales approach and improve the customer experience. For example, if the system detects that a customer is showing signs of frustration or disinterest, the seller can adapt their approach to emotionally reconnect with the customer, increasing the chances of closing the sale. The impact of neuroscience on technological tools. Cleric emphasizes that, while advanced technologies are extremely powerful, the true success of these tools lies in their ability to activate emotional responses from customers. Neuroscience plays a crucial role in creating sales strategies that maximize the emotional impact of each interaction. For example, augmented reality not only allows customers to see how they would look with certain products but also activates positive emotions related to self-confidence and the desire to belong. Personalized marketing techniques leverage customer emotional data to create messages that truly resonate with their values and desires. The future of sales. Cleric closes the chapter by reflecting on the future of sales and how neuroscience and technology will continue to be dominant forces in how products and services are sold. In the future, personalized selling will be even more precise, using artificial intelligence, big data, and neuroscience to predict customers' emotional and rational needs before they recognize them themselves. The salesperson will be more than just an intermediary between the product and the customer. They will be an expert in emotionally connecting with the customer, using technological tools to create a unique and emotionally meaningful shopping experience. Conclusion. This chapter shows how the future of neurosales is marked by technological innovations that enable salespeople to personalize and optimize the sales process to an unprecedented level. Tools like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and big data are allowing salespeople to connect emotionally with customers more efficiently and effectively. For salespeople, understanding and leveraging these technologies will be key to staying competitive in the future. Chapter 19. How to overcome the fear of rejection using neurosales. In this chapter, Jürgen Cleric addresses one of the greatest psychological challenges faced by salespeople, the fear of rejection. While this fear is natural, it can be a significant obstacle to a salesperson's success. Cleric explains that, although rejection is an inevitable part of the sales process, the fear of rejection can be overcome by understanding how the human brain works and applying neuroscience principles that allow salespeople to better manage their emotions and increase their resilience to rejection. The fear of rejection and its impact on sales. Cleric begins the chapter by stating that the fear of rejection is one of the main emotional blocks faced by salespeople. When a salesperson receives a no or rejection from a customer, the human brain experiences a response similar to receiving personal criticism or being excluded. This emotional response activates the dopamine system, related to feelings of pleasure and reward, and when no positive reward is received, it also activates the stress system. This rejection not only affects the salesperson's mood but can also influence their motivation and confidence. The fear of rejection can make the salesperson doubt their abilities, reduce their focus, or even abandon the sales process before giving their best. The human brain and the fear of rejection. Cleric explains that the human brain is programmed to seek social acceptance and avoid situations that may trigger feelings of exclusion or failure. The fear of rejection is deeply connected to the reptilian brain, which responds to any social threat, such as rejection, with an emotional defense or flight reaction. This can make the salesperson feel nervous or anxious when interacting with customers, which in turn can affect their sales performance. However, Clark points out that this reaction is entirely natural, and the key to overcoming it lies in understanding how the brain works and applying neuroscience techniques that allow the salesperson to manage their emotions effectively. Restructuring the fear of rejection. Clark suggests that, instead of viewing rejection as something negative and personal, salespeople should learn to restructure it as a natural and constructive part of the sales process. Rejection does not have to be seen as a judgment of the salesperson's abilities, but rather as an opportunity for learning and growth. Accepting that rejection is part of the process. The first step in overcoming the fear of rejection is accepting that rejection is inevitable in the sales process. No salesperson can close 100% of sales, so rejection should be seen as a normal part of the sales cycle. By accepting this reality, the salesperson can stop fearing rejection and begin to see it as an opportunity to improve their approach. Depersonalizing rejection. Clark emphasizes that rejection is not a reflection of the salesperson's personal value. Often, the customer simply isn't interested in the product at that moment or isn't the right person to make the decision. Rejection should be depersonalized so that the salesperson is not emotionally affected by the negative response. The key is to focus on the process and how to improve the approach for the next customer. Focusing on long-term results. Successful salespeople understand that rejection is just part of a larger process. Instead of focusing on each individual rejection, the best salespeople think in terms of long-term results. Each rejection is simply a step toward a successful sale. Clark encourages salespeople to maintain a long-term mindset, understanding that each no brings them closer to a yes. Positive visualization. Clark presents a powerful technique to overcome the fear of rejection. Positive visualization. Before a sales interaction, the salesperson should visualize themselves successfully and confidently approaching the customer, imagining themselves closing the sale or responding with assurance to any objections. This technique activates brain areas related to self-confidence and emotional calm, reducing anxiety before the interaction. By visualizing success in sales situations, the salesperson reprograms their emotional response and shifts their mental focus, improving their confidence and reducing the likelihood of being affected by rejection. Using neuroscience to manage fear. Clark explains that neuroscience has shown that the human brain can be reprogrammed to handle fear more effectively. By using techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, and self-affirmation, salespeople can reduce their physiological response to fear and anxiety. Deep breathing and stress control. A technique recommended by Clark is deep breathing, which helps reduce the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight responses. By calming the body through deep breathing, the salesperson can decrease anxiety and make calmer decisions during interactions with customers. Replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Clark suggests that, when the fear of rejection starts to affect a salesperson's performance, it is helpful to replace negative thoughts with positive affirmations. The brain has the capacity to reprogram itself through the repetition of positive thoughts. Instead of thinking, "If I'm rejected, I'm a failure," the salesperson should tell themselves, "Each rejection makes me stronger and more prepared for the next yes." Building emotional resilience. The author also emphasizes the importance of building strong emotional resilience. Salespeople need to be able to recover quickly from rejection and maintain a positive focus. Over time, salespeople who learn to manage rejection effectively become more resilient and satisfied with their work, which increases their overall performance. Conclusion. This chapter concludes that the fear of rejection is a completely natural emotional response that all salespeople experience. However, applying the principles of neuroscience and emotional self-management techniques, such as visualization, deep breathing, and focusing on long-term results, can help salespeople overcome this fear and turn it into an opportunity for learning and growth. By depersonalizing rejection and maintaining perspective, salespeople can become more confident and resilient professionals, ready to face any challenge on their path to success. Chapter 20. Conclusion. Transforming your mindset for sales success. In this final chapter, Jürgen Klarik reflects on everything learned throughout the book and offers a powerful conclusion about how salespeople can transform their mindset for long-term success. Klarik emphasizes that the right mindset is essential to excel in the sales world, and neuroscience plays a crucial role in the mental training salespeople need to become true leaders in sales. The importance of mindset. Klarik stresses that success in sales doesn't solely depend on a salesperson's technical skills or the neuro-sales strategies they use. What truly differentiates exceptional salespeople is their mindset. A positive, growth-oriented mindset focused on seizing opportunities is key to overcoming the obstacles that will inevitably arise in the sales process. The author highlights that, just as the brain can be reprogrammed to manage the fear of rejection or stress, it can also be strengthened to have a winning mindset. Neuroscience demonstrates that the brain is incredibly plastic and can adapt and grow through the constant practice of certain thought patterns. How to transform your mindset for sales success. Klarik offers several practical recommendations on how salespeople can work on their mindset to achieve extraordinary results. Cultivate a growth mindset. Salespeople should adopt a growth mindset, which makes them see every challenge or rejection as an opportunity to learn and improve. A fixed mindset, which believes that skills are unchangeable, limits a salesperson's potential. In contrast, those with a growth mindset believe that they can continuously develop and learn. This type of mindset allows them to bounce back quickly from failures and move forward with enthusiasm. Focus on the importance of the process, not just the results. A common mistake in sales is focusing exclusively on the final outcome, closing the sale. While this is a legitimate goal, Klarik notes that salespeople should focus on the sales process, where the real learning and development occur. By enjoying the process, the salesperson reduces anxiety and pressure for an immediate result, allowing for a better emotional connection with the customer and improved performance. Visualize success every day. Klarik reminds salespeople that visualization is a powerful tool. Positive visualization should not only be used before sales interactions but should also be part of the salesperson's daily routine. Visualizing success scenarios in which the salesperson succeeds, closes sales, or confidently handles objections effectively prepares the brain for those moments. Visualization can also be a tool to strengthen resilience in the face of potential rejections, as the salesperson feels more prepared to face any challenge. Develop emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is one of the most valuable traits of successful salespeople. Klarik emphasizes that salespeople must learn to manage their emotions and recover quickly from negative experiences. Neuroscience shows that the brain can adapt and strengthen itself in the face of stress if self-control is practiced. Salespeople who develop emotional resilience not only overcome rejections but also use those experiences to fuel their motivation and keep moving forward with a positive attitude. Accept vulnerability as a strength. Klarik encourages salespeople to embrace their vulnerability as part of their growth process. Being vulnerable means being open to learning and accepting mistakes without feeling weakened by them. Often, the best salespeople are those who can show their humanity and genuinely connect with customers, creating a more authentic and lasting relationship. Maintain patience and perseverance. Success in sales rarely happens immediately. Salespeople must maintain a patient and persevering mindset. While rejections can be tough, it's important to remember that every interaction is an opportunity to improve. As Klarik said, the great salesperson is not the one who never faces rejection, but the one who, after each rejection, gets up, adjusts, and moves forward with more determination. Set clear and achievable goals. A crucial part of a success-oriented mindset is the ability to set clear goals. Goals should not only be challenging but also achievable. Klarik suggests that salespeople break down their big sales goals into smaller, attainable objectives, which allow them to measure progress and stay motivated along the way. Long-term sales success is more related to consistency and daily effort than to sporadic victories. The neuroscience behind a successful mindset. Klarik emphasizes that all of this can be supported by neuroscience. The areas of the brain related to motivation, reward, and emotional resilience can be activated and strengthened through the constant practice of positive thought patterns. Repeating positive thoughts and actions literally changes the brain's structure, reinforcing the salesperson's confidence and self-efficacy. By adopting a positive mindset and working on personal growth, the salesperson activates areas in the brain that boost their self-esteem and help make better decisions in sales situations. Conclusion. Cleric concludes the chapter by emphasizing that the right mindset is the key to sustaining long-term success in sales. Salespeople must adopt a growth mindset, resilience, and patience, visualize success, and learn from rejections. The salesperson's future is determined not only by their technical skills or neuro-sales strategies but by their ability to maintain a positive attitude and seize the opportunities that come with each experience. Final conclusion. And so, we reach the end of this journey through the world of neurosales. In this book, we've explored how understanding and applying the principles of neuroscience can completely transform the way we sell. Through the strategies and tactics we've shared, you now have the necessary tools to emotionally connect with your clients, overcome obstacles like the fear of rejection, and build authentic relationships that lead to successful sales. Remember, sales are not just about products or services but about emotions and human connections. By understanding how your clients' brains work and applying these principles, you'll be able to make smarter decisions, increase your resilience, and most importantly, grow your business significantly. Now, with this new knowledge, it's your turn to put it into practice. Always remember to visualize your success, maintain a positive attitude, and keep learning because true sales success begins with the right mindset. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey. If you enjoyed this content, subscribe to the Audio Mentors channel for more resources on neurosales and personal development. See you in the next audiobook.